welcome back to another episode of Tech Pro Unicorn. I am your host, Michael Grace, and I am not in the podcast studio for the second time in 2 weeks. This is what was my home office, which is now our granddaughter's nursery, and my makeshift podcast studio. So hopefully it looks presentable. Today, I am joined by Ely Delaney. He is our Automated Systems Strategist, also known as the People Whisperer. He's the creator of the Follow Up Rockstar System, teaching entrepreneurs how to go from surviving to thriving in any economy through the art and science of building strong relationships and following up for life. He's an Amazon bestseller with his 2 books, Marketing Tidbits and Networking Tidbits. He is also has a passion for connecting with people. His best-selling training course, Networking Like A Rockstar, has over 1,365 students registered globally. Ely helps speakers, authors, and coaches automate their follow-up to grow their business without having to have an MBA from MIT. He's the guy to help you build a 24/7 automated system and turn you into a follow-up rock star. Ely, thanks for taking the time and joining us here on the podcast.
That's my pleasure, Michael. I love doing this kind of stuff.
It's awesome. So lots of the People Whisperer. I just got to go to that because man, you could help me in so many ways. We could start with my wife. No, just kidding. But so many people, right, are trying to figure other people out, and we take personality surveys, and we try to learn about ourselves so we can learn how to interpersonally connect with other people. And we just had another podcast guest on. He was talking about energy and how your energy matches their energy. And there's all this science around how do we just deal with each other. So maybe how did the People Whisperer title come about, and talk a little bit about that?
It is really funny how that came about. So I have a couple of friends who ran a show. They actually still do. Every month they do a summit, a virtual summit kind of thing. And when COVID started, they actually started this thing. They've been doing it every month ever since they got, I don't even know how many 100 and some different speakers that have come on and spoke over the last year and a half or whatever. And at the 1 year mark, they decided that they were going to have a award ceremony for their people who had been guests on their show. And they came up with my award was the People Whisperer. And for me, it was like, it really did hit home because real simply put, my entire life, and I didn't really think about it too much until that day, that my entire life has really been about connecting with people. It is about how can we build relationships, and like it says above my head here, meet cool people, because that's really my favorite thing to do. It's like, I'm in business, I help people with automation and technology and all this cool stuff. But reality is none of that really matters if you don't have a relationship with somebody, because people buy from who they know, like, and trust. And that's where People Whisperer became, because I have people. I'm the guy who, when you get a new car and it connects to your Bluetooth, and I connected the first time when I bought my last car, I actually broke the computer because I had too many contacts. And they were shocked. They were embarrassed by the fact that this happened. And I was like, yeah, but I can kind of understand, because I literally have somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 contacts on my phone. And these are people I actually know, like people I've sat down and had dinner with, or had coffee with, or had drinks with. And people I've really shook hands with these people. They're not just random strangers. And so that's where the People Whisperers come from. It's something that it kind of stuck with me after that. I really kind of enjoy it and have fun with it.
I love it. And a lot of this, like when we look at automation, right, because that's what we do at our scale for corporations, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to, automation takes the humanity out, right? Like, we're going to automate everything, and then it's just going to be computers talking to computers, and people are going to be so isolated and alone, and then they paint this sad story. How is technology kind of playing in the networking and relationship business to our advantage, maybe?
Yeah. So, and that is a great thing, because I have that. That is actually the number one concern I get from people is, I don't want to automate everything because it's taken the human touch out of it. And reality is, I totally understand that because I am a relationship person. I want to have a real conversation with people. The problem is,
Mm-hmm.
as you grow, you meet more people. If maybe you're speaking like I am, I'm a speaker, so I go across the country. I'm speaking at events all the time. Just last week, I was one that had over 250 people in it in Vegas, and you meet a lot of people. To do that follow up manually is impossible. You just can't do it. There's not enough hours in the day. But you find that if you're going to follow up with people, you're going to say the same thing over and over again. Hey, it was great meeting you at the XYZ event. I hope you had a great time. I met some cool people like you. I would love to chat with you. Let's see, what does next Thursday look like for you or whatever. That's kind of a basic script, which, by the way, if you're not using it, go back and listen to that again and use that. It works. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you say the same thing over and over and over again. Eventually, it's literally the exact same thing. But instead of manually typing this out every time, what if you had a script that would literally, instead of spending 5 minutes writing it, would take 3 seconds to do it? Or you could put it into some automation that would follow up with something like that. And then when they respond, they click the reply button, it comes back to you. Now, instead of using the technology, now you've opened it up to an actual real dialogue. So you're using the technology, you're using automation to go out to a bigger scale people, because doing it one at a time is impossible. But when they reply back, now that opens up to, hey, let's actually get on the phone or get on the Zoom call and have that actual conversation. And I have found that I've had people where literally I've had them use a script just like I just gave you. And they've all of a sudden, they're getting like a 20% response of people just saying, hey, thank you so much for following up. I know personally when I go to events and I send those emails out, I'll get easily a 20, 30, sometimes even a 50% response, if not more. Sometimes it's actually much higher, like closer to almost 100%.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many people actually email me to follow up after that event? One, maybe two,
Mm-hmm.
because we all get busy. And so I'm utilizing the technology that
Yeah.
we all have access to.
I'm your perfect example. I'm going to be your case in point. I just did a webinar out into our community of people. And it was about 3 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
well, about 2 weeks ago, to be fair to me. And I said, I'm going to send each of those people a personal email, right,
Mm-hmm.
from me, thanking them for taking an hour out of their day,
Mm-hmm.
listening to my webinar. And sure, maybe make a connection and a sale might come out of it, right? But honestly, I just want to thank them for taking an hour out of their day.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, and everyone's like, oh, we'll put that into our email system and it'll automatically, and it'll do all this follow up and put them in the CRM and stuff. And I said, no, I don't want something like that. I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're now T minus 2 weeks after the webinar, and I still haven't done it,
Yep.
right? Because I still want to do it. So today I did half the list, and you know what I did is I created a form letter essentially in Word, and I said this is what I want to say, and I put in links and I added value, right? I gave them a free
Mm-hmm.
giveaway in the email to say, hey, if you open this, here's something that I think is valuable. Because I hate spam, I hate just empty emails, and I was like, I could have automated that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
waited 2 weeks to do that, and
Yep.
I should have just planned to do that. And then like, how more impactful would that have been if I
Mm-hmm.
did it right after the event, like the next day or the next morning, and said, hey, thank you for taking the time, blah
Yeah.
blah blah. But I thought somehow it was gonna be magical because I did it and it came from me. And so good intent, but I'm a case in point to your story.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. We have great intentions. The problem is life happens. And nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, life will happen. You will have fires. You have things going on. Clients break down and have something going on. The dog needs to go outside. The kids need to ride to school. Whatever it is, it's going to happen. That's just life. So let's utilize the tools we have. And then that way it streamlines out as much as possible to free us up for those other things that happen. And most importantly, it frees us up for the time to have an actual conversation. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
literally this morning, I recorded a video. I'm testing some new software for video, right? And so I recorded a video and I set it up. I scheduled it to do a live into a couple of Facebook groups that I have. And I'm just testing it. So I only did it in these 2 groups. I just want to see how it worked. But the cool thing about it was, half an hour later, I get a notification that I'm live. I'm live streaming. I was nowhere near my computer, and it was like, this is awesome. And now people can watch the video. It feels like it's real. I'm not saying anything, like I'm not saying, hey, it's good to see you guys live or anything like that. Number one, anytime you use automation and technology for this stuff, it always should feel like it's real, but you never lie. Never do that. Like if you're doing a webinar, and I know a lot of people use webinars and they say, hey, thanks for joining me. And they start naming off names of people who don't actually exist. And their software has a bunch of names for people that don't actually exist and stuff like that. Don't play that game. People see right through it. You want to just basically act like you're having a real conversation with them right then and there, but act like don't say anything that makes it lie, because then you lose all the credibility that goes with it.
I love it. That's a great tip. So how many times have you watched these live webinars and you're like, that's not live? Mm-hmm. And they're like, coming to you live. And you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the sad thing about it is that people are still doing that. Even I was running an automated webinar before most people knew what automated webinars really were. And even then, the wording was very precise to give the feeling that it was real, but never lying, never saying anything that's going to go against my ethics. Mm-hmm. You can do that. You can do it as long as you're not, don't lie to people, because they will see through it. And even if they don't consciously notice it, subconsciously, the back of their brain is still ticking and still noticing that kind of stuff. You don't want to be that person.
Yeah, so much technology has evolved post-pandemic, but even pre-pandemic, in the last 3 to 5 years, what used to be such a hassle putting out a webinar, it had to be shot live. It involved a lot of equipment. It had a lot of overhead that came with it, right? So a lot of folks, it was a good barrier to entry, I think, to some extent, because it prevented just everyone from having a webinar.
Right.
Now, everybody, we use Event 24 on 24 as a service for our webinars, which is great. And it allows us to either go live, or in some cases, we pre-record our webinars, we release them, and then we have, the same people back on towards the end of the webinar to answer any questions at the end of the webinar. So all this technology is kind of really rapidly evolved. And are there pros and cons with that, right? That now basically for $20, right, anybody can basically create and release a webinar. How do they, how do you sort through that and produce something of good content for people?
So, and we'll talk about this on every aspect, not just webinars. The most important thing is be genuine. Teach good stuff. The quality isn't even as important as providing great content. I will sit there, if I have somebody who has a presentation, and it doesn't matter whether it's live in person, on video, listening to a podcast, I don't care what the medium is. If the content is great, the quality can be second rate. With that said, audio is more important than video, even if you're shooting video. You want your quality of audio has to be perfect. If your video gets a little grainy every once in a while, it's annoying, but people will forgive that. But if they can't understand you, then you got an issue. And so, invest in a quality mic. And we're not even talking huge amounts. You can get some great, I think the AT2020 is one of the popular ones, and it runs about $100, if not less. Invest in a good mic. I'm using a Yeti mic right now. I paid $100 for it. I love it.
I love my Yeti.
Yeah. And some people love them. Some people hate them. But the quality, that is the big thing. The second thing is even like lighting is good for if you're going to do video on camera stuff. But remember, you don't even have to necessarily do that. You can do presentation style stuff too. The key is provide great content. That's the part I see so many people having issues with. And when it comes to, using technology, here's a great example. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You want to do something cool. Guess what? You got a phone. Okay. Your phone is a great tool. You want to see one of the best things you can do that is going to make a difference. It's going to make you stand out from anybody else. And it comes with your phone. You already have it. Go to Facebook. And if you're trying to connect with somebody, send a friend request and then immediately send them a video message.
I love it.
Short, sweet, to the point. Okay. You can't talk more than 15 seconds. It doesn't even let you. And all you're doing is like, hey, I just sent you a friend request. I wanted to say hi. I say this to people all the time. If you're connecting with me, maybe somebody's heard me on this show or they've seen me speak or whatever. I say, connect with me and send me a message. Let me know where I saw you from. Because if I get that message, I'm going to accept your friend request. I'm going to reply back. We start a conversation. We start a real dialogue almost immediately. Right now, I have about 15 friend requests from people who didn't do that I haven't dealt with yet because they were low priority. And so these little things like this doesn't cost anything. You already have your phone, right? We already have that. Use things like that. Don't overthink the technology. Don't overthink it. Don't have to have the greatest, latest stuff. If you want to do pre-recorded webinars, you don't even have to make it a webinar. Make it just a video on demand. They still opt in. They still sign up for your list in order to get access to it. Put a video on a page. If you really want to cut corners, put that video on YouTube and make it unlisted and embed it. You don't have to make it difficult. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. And by the way, depending on where you are, if you're looking for, maybe you're in sales, you follow up with somebody just with a little simple personalized video that says, hey there, I just wanted to follow up and let you know I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Something like that. Super simple. Those things are so crazy powerful.
I love it. I was in the wedding industry. We were DJing for a while, and a lot of the wedding vendors were kind of doing that, right? They would just like make a connection with you, and then they'd record a really quick little video and attach it to the email with their information. And I just thought, that's amazing, right? How powerful is that to say, I heard you, and I wanted to take some time out of my time. I want to already invest, right, and create this little video that takes me 15 seconds just to say, hi, Eli, thanks for taking the time and reaching out. We're really looking forward to doing X. And the power that has is insane versus a flat email that says, here's all the information you asked for. Okay. Yeah, I'll put it in the Excel spreadsheet with everybody else's info.
Exactly.
Then you become, there's no differentiator, right? Now they're either deciding on price or maybe you have a service or something that differentiates you, but you're not involved in that mix, right? And that's the same at any scale, whether it be small like that, I think, or even large corporations, right? When they do a request for a proposal and they do all these things, you think like, oh, our stuff is so solid, but it isn't, right? It's the same shit that everybody else has.
It is.
That everybody else, you're using blue, they're using red. This guy uses green. There might be color differences. Your logo's different. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, you're saying the same shit as everyone else. So how do you differentiate? And the power of video, that's just an amazing tip.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even just video. I mean, here's another great one. Let's say you've got a proposal you're putting out to somebody and you send out the proposal and you're using a template, which is pretty straightforward of here's the steps and here's how much it's going to cost and yada, 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 right? That could be pretty standard. And even if you personalize it with a little bit of humor and your personality into it, which you should, it's still reading something. So it still may not come off overly unique. But when you send that, wait like 2 minutes and send a text message and say, hey, I just shot you that email. Let me know that you got it. That's it. That's all you put in the text. Don't try to put everything you can in there. Don't put any links to the proposal or anything like that. Literally just I just sent you this email. Let me know that you got it. That simple little thing makes you stand out as I care about you and I just checking in to make sure that you got the thing I sent to you. That will make you stand out, which, by the way, those are some of the things you can even automate that. I actually have part of our system. We have stuff where I'll send an email and I follow up with the text, but it's all automated. And it says literally that same thing. It's just, hey, I sent you an email about a half an hour ago. Just check your email. Let me know. Let me know that you got it. And then when they reply back, again, we're opening up a dialogue. They reply back, oh, I didn't get it. Okay, did you check your spam? Or maybe let me resend it, or, we open up a conversation, or yes, I did get it. Awesome. Let me know when you've taken a look at it and call me if you have any questions. So
Yeah,
we're continuing a dialogue conversation that way.
I love it. So many people seem haphazard, right, in their
Mm-hmm.
communication. I get spammed by people that want to do business, right, non-customers, but they want to create
Mm-hmm.
a partnership, or they have a system, or they want to somehow they're going to save the world, and how they approach me is, they'll send me an email, then like 2 hours later and it's usually spelled wrong, and it's
Mm-hmm.
usually just a mess of an email, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll, the next day, did you get my email? And then their follow up is the next day, hey, I've sent you a couple emails. And I just
Mm-hmm.
reply back, and I'm usually pretty snarky, right? Because if you enter my DMs uninvited, I'm going to have fun, right? To me,
Yep.
you're entertainment. I didn't ask you to be there. You opted in. So now you get to play my game, right? And usually I'm like, spell check,
Yeah.
grammar check, like here's a link to Webster's dictionary. I suggest you figure out how to use it. Um, how important is it to plan out? Let's talk about campaigns, I guess. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you want to create a campaign, and you're thinking it through, like what are some key components, and where are the automation points that can enter in there to help people
Okay.
so that they don't
Um,
just spam, 3 emails in a row.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to vary a lot depending on what the purpose of the campaign is. So the
Gotcha.
purpose is your number one thing you got to know. What is the goal of this campaign?
I love it.
That goal could be go sign up for my webinar. It could be book a call with me. It could be buy my stuff. Whatever that goal is, and everything should always have a goal. It goes back to direct response marketing. There should always be a form of call to action, even if that call to action could be, hey, just reply back and let me know if you thought this was cool. Like, say you're just providing content. I love to share a lot of books. Great example. I keep this book on my desk. I share it with me all the time. It's The Go Giver by Bob Burg. If you haven't read it, go read it. It is super, super powerful. Um, I have been recommending this book for decades because it's such a good book. And I'll share that out with people and just say, hey, you know what? Here's a great book. You should check it out. Here's why I like it so much. Here's a link, and I just link it to Amazon. Once you've read it, let me know what you think. Okay. So the call to action is not necessarily for them to go buy the book, although that would be step one. But the call to action really is go read the book and then reply back and let me know what you thought of it. Because again, it's a dialogue. We're opening up a conversation.
I love it. Yep.
Now, if you're in a sales process, let's say even if you are cold calling, you're basically blind emailing people. I'm not a big fan of that, but let's just say that was your scenario. Okay. Number one, yes, spell check. Make sure that it's spelled right. I'll tell you, most of those people that are sending that kind of stuff, they're actually coming out of either they are coming out of like a third world country or somewhere where English is not their first language, or they're a virtual assistant of the company and they're not in the country. So a lot of times that's where a lot of those spell check kind of issues come into play.
Sure.
So the very first thing you should always do, spell check, read it like 5 times and read it out loud. How does it sound? Does it sound like you're having a real conversation with somebody? And you just reach out and just, hey, I saw your page on XYZ. I just wanted to see if are you working with somebody, or would you be open to a conversation about this? That would be the good way to do it. Okay. A little bit more, not as salesy, and you're still invading their space. So I'm not a big fan of out of the blue. What I love to do, you want to make this work, don't email people out of the blue. Go find groups, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, the best two places in the world to find connections with people. Figure out where your audience is, hang out with them. Go to those groups and listen to the questions. People will ask questions. Be responsive to those questions, but don't just say yes, no, answers. So here's a great example of it. There's a piece of software that we use. Some people may have probably heard of it, called Infusionsoft. They recently changed their name to Keep. For all kinds of stuff we won't even go into today, but they've been known as not the easiest software to use over the years. And I had a client who, before he was a client, I met him through a group, a Facebook group. He posts and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about switching over to the software, and I'd like to know, what are your thoughts, ins and outs? Why do you like it, or why do you not like it?" And
Mm-hmm.
he got bombarded by comments, but a lot of them were, "No, run, it's confusing, it's too expensive, yada yada yada." Or the flip side, where other people who were partners and resellers, "It's awesome, give me a call, we'll talk, and I'll get you a good deal." So they were either talking about how horrible it is or pitching it. Okay, those were everybody. There's like 50 different responses, and that's what everybody did. I go in there and I'm like, okay, so I've been using the software since 2008. I love it. I could not imagine using anything else. It actually does the work of 2 full-time
Wow.
employees for myself and my business. Here's what you need to know. And I made a list of the things why I loved it, and the things I didn't like about it, and the things to be prepared for if he did decide to move that direction. At
Mm.
the end, I mean, it took me maybe 5 minutes to write. Okay. Because I actually put a little bit of thought into it.
Yeah,
And at the end, I said, if you got more questions, I said, first off, I hope this is helpful. If you've got more questions, feel free to shoot me a message. I'd be happy to just jump on a Zoom call with you, and I can talk to you about it, because we've known it. We have seniority over most of their staff, so I can probably help you with ideas that they probably can't even answer. So he comments and says, "Thank you so much. This was awesome." And about a week later, he calls me up, or he actually messages me directly and goes, "Hey, Eli, I don't know if you remember, but you posted in this group. First off, I want to thank you. You gave me way more information than anybody else. I could actually go off of this. All right, would you still be willing to have that call with me?" And so I said, "Of course." So we jumped on a Zoom call, and he loved it. And he ended up signing up through us. I didn't even try to pitch him anything, originally. He ended up signing up through us, and he is a client of ours today. And that was, I think, about 4 years ago. Okay. And we
wow.
still do work with him every single month, purely because I took 5 minutes to have a real conversation with him instead of just a one-off answer. And I didn't, if I had tried to cold call him, essentially, I would have never even found him that way. But if you want to find the best clients, go to where they're hanging out, answer their questions, and actually give them a little bit of detail. That'll open up for everything else.
I love it. Yeah, the world of these groups is kind of cool. I watch right. I have a Toyota 4Runner. I'm
Mm-hmm.
part of all the off-road and 4Runner groups
Nice.
in Arizona, which is great, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
watch the vendors respond like, "Oh, what tires should I get? Oh, well, we install these all the time, and blah blah blah. And here's the
Mm-hmm.
pros and the cons, and blah blah blah." And guess what? Those people go there and they get the tires, right? Which, if you own an off-road vehicle, tires for an off-road vehicle, that's no cheap joke, right? That's the
Yeah, that's
people
that's
spend,
that's a second mortgage as it is.
yeah, people spend 1,500 just for tires, add rims and stuff, and you're easily north of that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because they did what you did, right? They went to where the people were and they added value, right? They weren't
Yeah.
saying like, "Come buy the tires from us." They were like, "Hey, here's what people in this area are generally finding very successful. This is what we install the most of. This is what we hear is the pros and the cons." And then people go, "Oh, they know what they're talking about. Let me go talk to them," right? We call it
Mm-hmm.
eminence. When we do it, we create blog posts and all these knowledge articles and produce webinars, and we're just putting
Mm-hmm.
content out there that hopefully benefits people. And oftentimes we keep going, "Man, we should, put a firewall there, and we should charge for this, and we should," and we're like, or we can just have it out there, and hopefully it helps people, and then they appreciate that, and then they start a conversation that leads to a relationship, which leads to work,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
awesome.
and one of the kickers with it is always still include a call to action. That's where a lot of people do miss the boat. But the call to action does not have to be go here and get a discount. It could be, If you got other questions, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer. That's still a call to action. Matter of fact, that's the one that I use most of the time. I tell people, I'm like, you know what? If this made sense, if you like this and you want to find out more about it, let's have a chat. Just book a call with me, no pressure. And we'll chat. And if I can help you, then I'll let you know. I may not be able to help you, and if I can't, I'm going to point you in the right direction to who can, because I love doing that either way. I want to see you succeed, and
Yep.
it's a much more relaxed way of doing sales, and I have a lot of fun with it, and I do well with it, and it's cool. I mean, I just had somebody this morning I had a call with, and she was like, "You're just so easy to talk to. I know I'm going to need some help very soon because I'm just starting a couple of things. I'm not quite there yet, but I will be calling you when I'm ready because I want to work with you." And if I can have that feeling, that's all I look for, because I get some of the best clients that way because they trust me before we even have a sales conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, you establish the relationship that
Mm-hmm.
pays off. I watch some of these sales folks, and they're driven by all these metrics and KPIs that they're held against, and they just
Mm-hmm.
have to sell something, and it's desperate, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
"Please buy my stuff that I know you don't need, right? But please save my job, buy my stuff."
Yeah.
And then there's relationship-based sales folks that just want to learn about maybe me or my business or what our needs are.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, I don't have anything now, but is it all right if we stay in contact? We, just talk. We
Mm-hmm.
maintain the relationship. Maybe they move to a different company. Maybe I move to a different company, right? But that relationship transcends all of that, right? And then when I'm like, "Hey, aren't you, at this supply vendor? And hey, we have this need, and
Mm-hmm.
that relationship didn't start here, right? It started somewhere else, and it's because they were more interested in building that relationship than pushing a widget."
Right. And that's the biggest thing is, I am an entrepreneur. I'm a capitalist. I like to get paid. There's no question about it. I do not hide that in any way, shape, or form. But that does not mean I'm pitching people all the time. We have those, I'll quote, air quote, relationships with people where the only time you ever hear from them is when they're pitching you something. I call that a pitch pirate. The only time they talk to you is when they want your booty. And that's not what we want. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person. Just, no, I don't hide anything. I mean, in this conversation, I've talked about what I do and how I help people on it was a high level, but I talk about it all the time. But it wasn't a pitchy, and when I do this for my clients, I make this. And when I do this for you, you're going to get this. It's not the time for that conversation. If you come at people from a place of service and of just, let me see how I can help you out. Hey, here's an idea. Give it a try. Let me know if it works. I mean, I gave everybody listening, if you go back and listen to this, I gave you a script. If you meet somebody, use that script. Okay. That was in the first 5 minutes of our talk here.
Hmm.
Go get that transcribed, go to Otter, sign up for a free account, transcribe that one bit, and then go use it. Okay. And when you use it, connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn, shoot me a message and say, this is how it worked. That's what I want to know, because at the end of the day, if you do that and you get results, the chances of you actually saying, okay, I think I'm ready for the next step, maybe I should talk to Eli, go way up, just because you already got results. And I wasn't pitching you anything. It was all about, let me just share something, go try it. By the way, if just so you know, that's literally the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more we could do for you, but go use that and have fun with it. And if it works, awesome. And if it doesn't, let me know, because I'd like to hear that. I'd like to know. So far, it hasn't failed on anybody, but it could happen. But
That's
then,
awesome.
yeah, but you don't have to be high pressure sales. I mean, I just mentioned I was at this event this last week, and it was really interesting because the people that are literally about the pitch. I had somebody who I had met this person virtually probably about 8-ish years ago. And we'd had some pretty intense conversations back and forth of potentially working together, and something happened, and I don't even remember what it was. And we kind of lost touch with each other. So this person was at the event, and it was the first time we'd ever met in person. And I walked up to them and was like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but you and I were talking several years ago, and something happened. We lost connection, but it's really good to see you here and actually meet you in person." And they immediately came back with, "Oh yeah, well, we would love to have you as part of this program we've got going on, and we'll get you on stage to do this and this and this." She immediately went into pitch mode for her product, and I'm just like, "How about a hi? I don't remember the conversation, but let's figure that out. Where was it? What were we talking about?" Start the conversation with a
Yeah.
conversation, not a sales pitch. And immediately, it was funny because I had a friend sitting there next to me right there. And as soon as this person walked away, my friends just looking at me and I'm like, well, they just guaranteed I'll never spend a dollar with them, purely because of the way they led the conversation. Because they didn't care about our relationship. They didn't care about me. They just wanted my money. That's not a good way to run business.
Yeah, it's such a great, just tip and reminder. So many times people start off almost brazenly with like, buy our stuff, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you haven't even established that I need your stuff or that I care
Yes.
about your stuff. So much now, right? I'm on a LinkedIn cleanup mission. So if you're listening and I unconnect with you on LinkedIn, I apologize, right? But I'm going through like one by one, going, who is this person?
Right.
Why should I care about this person? What have they ever done, or how have we ever related, right? And if it's
Mm-hmm.
purely like, hey, thanks for connecting, can I sell you something? They're the first ones that get flamed, right?
Yep.
Like I truly don't care. I might tolerate some of the ones that are like, hey, thanks for connecting. Can we have a conversation
Mm-hmm.
so that we can talk? Okay. And I probably didn't take you up on that offer to talk, but I'm gonna value you a little more because you offered to invest some of your time with some of my time to create a
Right.
relationship, right? But these spammers on LinkedIn, I don't get it, right? Like I don't see how you think you're gonna send out thousands probably of these LinkedIn messages and get
Mm-hmm.
get anything.
There's a few people that are teaching that methodology, and ultimately it is a numbers game. So they get results, but it's because they send out to they might send out to 1,000 people. If they get 5 out of 1,000 people that actually respond, have a conversation, to end up making that sale, especially, I mean, maybe they're selling a $5,000 coaching program. Well, that's 25K for sending out 1,000 emails. It's not a bad day, but they're banking on the mass numbers. I would not want to deal with that in any way, shape, or form. That's not the way I like to play at all. I would much rather have 5 highly qualified people in the room that I can have a real conversation with and close all of them, which I've done before because of the relationship and the way the conversation went. It's just a better game to play, and it's a lot easier too, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Do you have tips on how to find those folks? I mean, like the
Mm-hmm.
groups I like, right? That makes I think total sense to anyone listening, right? Find whether you're trying to sell four-wheel drive parts and you go join these four-wheel drive groups, and you right now have
Mm-hmm.
you're the seller and you're in a group with consumers and you don't sell, but you offer knowledge and build relationships. Is there other tips that you might have for that LinkedIn side?
Um, I don't really use LinkedIn near as much as I should. I actually like Facebook more. And the
Really?
very simple reason for that is that almost everybody's on Facebook. LinkedIn makes it a little bit more difficult. And to be perfectly honest, I found that it's just not even user friendly. I don't feel as comfortable with it at all.
Hmm.
Um, I have a few, I mean, I'm on there and I do post some stuff, but it's not my place to hang out. I will be on Facebook, and Facebook groups tend to be better for me because people are more human and I like the human connection.
Hmm.
And so I will find the groups there. So I work with a lot of coaches, consultants, speakers, authors, in that, that knowledge expert arena. And they're all on Facebook. They're hanging out on Facebook very regularly. So I can easily have a conversation with them. And the cool thing about it is I actually get to know more about them, not just their business, but who are they as a person? Are they a dog person or are they a cat person? Do they have kids? What sports do they like? Things like that. It's no different than like you and I were talking before we even hit record on this. We talk about the art with the arrows behind you. Well, and I have a very similar piece actually in my office that's sitting right across from me. And then I talk about my archery a little bit. So that now there's a connection, and it all is because of something that I saw in a picture, you can
Right.
have these kind of conversations with people. Like I find people, I'm a total Ren Fair nerd. And if I see somebody post pictures about being at a Ren Fair at some point, it may be their only time, and they took their 6-year-old to it. They didn't have any interest in it, but guess what? Now we have something in common. So Facebook gives us that where LinkedIn doesn't as much. And I want to connect with people on the personal level and have them know that they can trust me as a human being and as somebody who actually can relate to them, as opposed to it being purely business.
I love it. I love it. So many great tips, right? Just kind of scattered out through here that you can extrapolate into so many other different things, right? Like
Yeah.
pay attention when like Eli noticed I mean he's totally like he noticed that we had a great conversation around artwork and when he used to live in Phoenix for 18 years. Um, uh, what I always say is take note of that stuff, right? If I'm
Yep.
going to have a relationship with Eli, I want to remember that and put it somewhere, right? Whether you
Yeah.
use a free HubSpot account where you can put 100 contacts and all this information, or use some system, right? Like remember that about people, because one of the most noticeable things about leaders is when they walk in the room, or maybe Eli and I don't talk again for another 6 months or whatever because we're off doing our own things, and then we come back together and I'm like, Eli, hey, blah 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 blah, and we like pick up where we went off because I was able to remember, lived in Phoenix 18 years, likes archery, has similar artwork, right? And we can reconnect on these really cool ways, right? And that maybe has something to do with sales and marketing, or maybe it has something to do with like applying for a job, right? You're on a video interview. I remember being on a call and I was talking to somebody and they had a lava lamp in the background. And I was like,
Nice.
hey man, if you and I are going to be on a call together and you have a lava lamp in your room, that has to be on or this call is over.
I
And we
love
just
it.
got this huge laugh and we were all like, ha ha ha, and then the conversation went on a totally different level because, we were joking about the 70s and lava lamps.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I think Farrah Fawcett posters might have somehow entered that conversation inappropriately,
It
but it was a
probably
good
it
time.
has to. It has to if we're
Yeah,
talking about that stuff. Yeah.
shag rugs and
Yeah. Yeah.
Camaros and Firebirds and yeah.
And that's the key is that so you're having conversations with people that are real conversations, and you're getting to know them a little bit. Now I'll backtrack a little bit to using the automation. When you're sending out emails or texts or whatever medium you're using, because it's always going to change at some point, use that same tone, the same personality. If somebody
Mm,
gets an email from me, it's going to start off with, "Hey there, how's it going?" Okay, because that's how I start most of my conversations. I mean, when we first jumped on this call, it was like, "Hey there, how's it going?" That's the first sentence or two sentences out of my mouth. My emails will do exactly the same thing. When I meet somebody in person, I'm going to say exactly the same thing. That is my personality coming through. And I use a lot of contractions in my email because that's when I talk. I talk about, can't, would, wouldn't, that's how I talk in real life. So I'm not going to say would not, because I wouldn't say would not. I would say wouldn't. Use the language that you use in real life and use it across everything, because then people can feel that personality when they're reading. And it's whether it be on a video, whether it be reading the text, a blog post, an email, wherever they read a post that you did on Facebook, use your tone, your voice, because people get to know you. They get to get a feeling for who you are as a person, and they can relate to you much better.
I love it. I wrote a blog post just the other day, and we now have a copy editor, which is awesome. Sort of. She's great. Elizabeth,
kind
if you're listening, you're amazing.
You got to
But
train them, but yes.
yeah, she's awesome. And I had just casual, because I sometimes I write from the perspective of my pen name, right? And I'll write
Mhm.
from Tech Pro Unicorn. Um, and I can be a lot more casual and cavalier, and and I think I put like in there because I do say quite a bit.
Mhm.
And she was like, "What is this pause? Like, let's take this out." And I'm like, "Well, let's leave it in," because I would have been like, so,
Mhm.
I love. I mean, that's such a yet another great tip is to write like you would talk, and then people tend to, especially if they've met you, they
Yeah.
almost like visualize you in a holographic kind of sense, like you reading them the email, and perhaps they'll use your tone
Yeah.
of voice even when they're
They will.
listening to and reading your email.
It really happens when you get to know people. If you ever catch yourself, if say you've met somebody at an event, or maybe you saw them speak, or you watched a video that they did, and then you get an email from them, when you read it in their voice. And so having the pause, the ums, the contractions, the tonality, the slang words, whatever it is that is your personality, they feel that and they read it that way, just like if you were talking to them in person. Now they can read an email and have a personal connection to you. It's so powerful in how it works, yet it's so simple.
Yeah, yeah, you've kind of scattered, for those of you that are listening and not watching. I literally have a page of notes that I just gathered, right,
I love it.
myself, from the information that Eli shared. Um, Also on his website, connectwitheli.com, and that's ELY.com. I've noticed he has free stuff out there too, right?
Mhm.
You have your follow up blueprint out there. There's some free training out there, which is always very cool, right? To kind of try before you buy a little bit and make sure that Eli is a good fit. And you might be like, man, this is exactly what I need. I really need some help here. And you can know where his content is coming from, and kind of the positioning that he has in trying to help businesses. So Eli, thanks for taking the time and sharing all the. Some of it was just reminders, and you're like, man, I haven't thought about that. And it's like you said, so simple, but
Mhm.
we just we get blinded by life and forget the simple. So thank you for
Yeah.
reminding us and sharing all the knowledge.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I love this kind of stuff. I really do. If you couldn't tell already. And I mean, and you said, you scattered a bunch of stuff. That's me on a normal basis. My brain goes in a million different directions, and I'm like, oh, I got this, and I got this, and I got this. And trying to narrow it down to one thing is very difficult. That's one reason why I love interviews, because then you can just ask what questions you want, and I'm happy to answer them. It's fun stuff. And, I'm gonna put this out there. So I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. Connectwitheli.com, by the way, ELY. Just you already said that, Michael, but I'm saying it again for people just to make sure they get it right. Connectwitheli.com. Go there and connect with me. Seriously, that's what it's there for. All my social media is on there. I'm easy to find. And if you enjoyed this, please connect with me. And there's even a spot you can book a call with me. And it's not a sales pitch. It really is. I want to get to know you. I like to meet cool people. So book a call with me. Say that you heard me on this show. Let's chat and let me see if I can help you out. Awesome. I'm happy to do that. We'll have the conversation of what that would look like. But if I don't think it's a good fit, or maybe you're not ready at all for that, if I can connect you with somebody that's a friend of mine, who I have a lot of people I'm connected to, if I have somebody that I can connect you with that I think would help you in where you are today, I'm happy to do so, because reality is the people that you meet will get you anywhere you need to go. And that is so, so powerful. It is all about relationships. It's all about the connections that you make. And if I can help you get there, get wherever there is, let me do it because it's what I love doing. I have fun with it. So definitely reach out, connect with me. And Michael, thank you for having me on the show. I have fun with this stuff. And, this is just the beginning of our friendship. We're going to stay in touch most definitely. As a matter of fact, I'm going to actually be in Phoenix in a few weeks.
Oh,
Maybe we'll have
cool.
to try to have lunch or something. But yeah, let's, anything I can do to help out, just reach out and let me know. And the most important thing, remember, it is all about relationships. Just have a conversation. The sales will come. Just have a conversation first.
I love it. Thanks again, Eli. This has been great. We've covered marketing, networking, a little bit of technology. We've talked about blueprints. I mean, we talked about Facebook. We talked about LinkedIn. We talked about how to write in a kind of a vocal tone. It has just been really cool. So I want to thank you very much for again spending the time, and we'll have Eli's connect with Ely ELY.com third time because you're going to want to put an I know you are, and it's not an I don't know what connect with Eli with an I gets you to, but it is this
It's
gentleman
some
right here.
He's a commercial real estate dude out of Iowa, I think, if I remember correctly.
That's not going to help anybody.
No, not unless you're buying some commercial real estate in Iowa. I don't know.
There
But
we
yeah,
go.
Michael, it's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I love doing this stuff. And anytime I can share some tips, tricks, resources, a couple of nuggets here or there, I'm happy to.
Awesome.